Welcome to Home Capital's series on home ownership. Buying your first house can be a daunting task, and in this series, we simplify the entire process for you. In addition to looking at a fixed rate versus a floating rate loan, a very common debate is, or a very common question that is asked is, what is the tenure for which I should take my loan? The tenure of your loans can vary from 15 to 25 to even up to 30 years today. Now, to help you understand the impact of the longer tenure of a loan, let's look at the example of Mr. and Mrs. Sharma, wherein they were taking a loan of 64.28 lakhs. If they were to take the loan for a 25-year period, the EMIs that they would be expected to pay on this loan is 45,000 rupees per month for the next 25 years. But if the same loan amount is taken for a period of 15 years, the EMI expected to be paid on this is 57,418. So you can see that by reducing the tenure of the loan from 25 to 15, the EMI has gone up from 45,000 to 57,000. What varies largely between the 15 and 25-year loan is the total amount of interest that you would repay to the bank over the tenure of the loan. So over the 25-year tenure of a loan, you would be expected to repay an interest of 70.78 lakhs to the banking institution. Whereas if it was a 15-year loan, the total interest cost that you would bear on a loan for 64.28 lakhs is 39.07 lakhs. So you can see that as the tenure of the loan increases, the interest that you pay to the banking institution over the longer tenure also increases. So although a longer tenure loan looks attractive in terms of the fact that the EMI of the loan is lower, you should understand that it converts into a much higher interest payout over the long period of time. In this case, the total payout in this 25-year loan period of 70.78 lakhs is actually much more than the original loan amount of 64.28 lakhs. Once you decide to make an application for the loan, all the co-owners of the property would become co-applicants in the loan, and in case your eligibility for the loan falls short, then you would need to add another co-applicant to the loan who need not be a joint owner but who is only adding to the application so that your eligibility for the loan improves, and along with the co-owners, the co-applicant's income is taken into account and the serviceability of the loan is determined to finally arrive at the actual amount that can be paid out to you as a home loan applicant. One factor that you need to keep in mind is the amount of home down payment that you need to make when purchasing the house. Home down payments can vary from 5% of the value of the house to 20% of the value of the house, and it varies from project to project and also varies from developer to developer. As per RBI, the maximum loan that can be financed by a bank is equal to 80% of the value of the asset. In the example that we've been discussing all through this series of Mr. and Mrs. Sharma who want to buy a house which is worth 80.35 lakhs, the down payment that is being expected from them is 8.035 lakhs, which is 10% of the value of the house. 80% will be financed by the bank, and on possession, the balance 10% will have to be paid by Mr. and Mrs. Sharma from their savings. With the advent of technology and increase in competition among the various banks and HFCs who would want to lend out a home loan to you, there are different types of EMIs which are available or options available to you as a home loan borrower. In case of a decreasing EMI, the EMI is higher during the initial years of the loan and subsequently decreases in the later years. Because of the fact that the EMIs are higher in the initial years, you tend to pay off the loan at a rate which is faster than a regular loan. An alternative to a decreasing EMI is an increasing EMI. In this type of loan, the payment of EMI begins at a lower amount and subsequently increases with the number of years of that particular loan. Such a EMI is generally available to salaried class and working professionals in the age of 21 to 45 and those who have a highly secure job with decent expected annual increment. With a person with such a profile, he can tend to take, with a person with such a profile, he can land up taking a loan which has a lower EMI today, which is being serviced from his lower salary. But as with time his salary increases, his EMI also increases, and he is able to service those increased EMIs in the future with his expected increased salary also in the future. The downside here is that since the repayment schedule is linked to an expected growth in your income in the future, if the expected increase in your salary does not come through, the repayment or servicing of this loan can become difficult for you as a borrower. Having said that, loans that come with increasing or decreasing EMIs help to suit or help to fit into the expected financial payouts to a individual, whether he's a salaried person or somebody who is working as a professional. Another variety of this loan is in the form of delayed EMIs, where the EMIs are expected to start after a gap of 2 to 3 years post getting the possession of the house. Now again, this is again a product which is designed purely for the younger people who have a higher income, and you can afford to delay the EMIs for a few years because you know that their higher income in the future will take care of the EMI payments which are expected to be made from such borrowers. Another variety is what is known as loans which are linked to your ideal savings bank account. What happens here is, once the loan is sanctioned to you, the interest rate that has to be computed on the home loan will be calculated on the outstanding balance of the loan minus the balance in your savings account. So what happens here is, the money that is lying idle in your savings account is offset against the outstanding loan, and when the interest is computed, it actually results in a smaller interest payout for that particular period, during which you have a surplus amount lying in your bank account. This helps you reduce your overall interest payout. One feature which is common across home loans, whether you take it from a bank or a NBFC, is the processing fee that has to be paid at the time of making an application for a home loan. The processing fee is generally a percentage of the loan amount. Having said that, banks can always prescribe a minimum or a maximum fee that is chargeable towards a home loan. In addition to the processing fee, you will also have to pay a GST at 18% of the processing fee. This processing fee is charged by banks or the housing finance institutions to help them cover the costs related to processing of your home loan application, doing a credit appraisal, doing verification of the property against which the loan is being given, and also to meet the stamp duty and other related costs associated with approving a home loan. You can always negotiate for a discount in a processing fee if you are taking a large amount of a loan, or if you have been an existing customer of a bank for a long period of time. It is not a bad idea to go online and to do a quick check of the processing fee across various banks before you make an application for a home loan. Typically, the processing charges on the home loans are paid at the time of submission of documents when making an application for the home loan, and when you are making this application, you can always talk to your banker and ask him to give you a cashback or a discount to the prevailing processing fee that is published by banks from time to time. Another common feature with most home loans is the facility to do a balance transfer. In case your home loan is with a bank or a financial institution who is charging a high amount of interest rate compared to the market, or if you are not satisfied with the facilities that they are offering to you or the services that they are rendering to you, you can always request for a transfer of the existing balance of the home loan to a new financial institution. And when you transfer the home loan to a new financial institution, you can also look at taking a loan which is larger than the current outstanding loan, provided you meet the eligibility requirements of the new banking institution. Now, transferring your home loan from your existing financial institution to a new institution is not free of charge and comes with a processing fee which can range from a certain percentage of the home loan amount outstanding and can come with a certain minimum or maximum fee associated with the home loan balance transfer. Basically, when you think of availing or doing such a home loan transfer, you must check the total cost that you will incur in doing the transfer in terms of the upfront fee that you need to pay to transfer the loan from your existing bank to a new bank, and also compare that with the savings and interest that you expect over the remaining tenure of the loan. If the savings and interest justifies a upfront fee that has to be paid today, it is only then that you consider doing a home loan balance transfer. The Home Capital community assists and guides you successfully through your journey of home ownership. Join India's first community of home buyers and home owners and take your next step towards home ownership.